Hi, I said I'd just record a quick video to show you how you can do the tick mark if you want to show people where they've done or where they haven't gone. So I've just a blank storyline thing up here. So I'm just going to insert a couple of buttons and do here. So just insert. And then if you hold down the shift key, or sorry, the control key, it'll just duplicate it. So that's handy, rather than having to resize them, and you can use all your little bits and pieces here to align them and just make sure that they're all distributed the same. So let's call this one, format it there. So we'll call this, option 1. Option 2, and this one here, option 3. All right, and this is where you can play around with the different states. So if I click on here on option 1, and I'll just show you some big practices or best practices as well when it comes to the buttons that we should make sure that everyone does. One thing I do is I always name stuff, because if you're like me, I will get confused when I go back. So I'll go to use shorthand. So let's call this option 1, and the BTN just stands for obviously button. Option 2, it's always good as well, because if you're working in teams, someone might have to go in and figure out what you were at, and just doing that, just naming the buttons just makes it easier, especially when you get into triggers. So calling the different things like layers, LYOR, buttons, BTN, text, TXT, just stuff like that. Just makes it much easier. So I have this here, and then I click on one of these and I go into states. So you can see there's different states here. Now these states are available on different, like if you put in a text box and stuff like that, but it'll only have normal by default. The difference between that and a button is the button comes with all of these. So what I've done is, what will be done automatically in the buttons here is it comes in with normal, hover, down, visited, and disabled. So you can see here the normal and visited are pretty similar. So if I want to edit those, I just double click on it and the rest gets grayed out, and I can see subtle differences between them. So this hover kind of has a bit of a box around it, down has a bit of a white on it, but you'll have to notice that the visited looks very similar to in fact it is the exact same. So it can be really hard for a learner to figure out, if they've gone back to, especially if it's a big lesson, which it really shouldn't be, if there's a lot in there. So I always do a little kind of visual cue that, they visited it. So they won't go back into it and get frustrated, because you want to reduce that learner fatigue and learner frustration. So now I've visited, done here, I can click on visited. And let's change the fill here to something dark or light. I tend to use, I'm just going to do something very kind of clear cut here. There's different style guides when it comes to how, what hover and things like that. I use one, I'll post it, it's in the group as well, called, it's the Google one, it's material.io or something like that. It's the Google, if you search for the Google style guide, it'll give you hints and tips on what, the hover should look like. So this is an example of one that I'm doing for my final project here. So I have all the different states here, and this comes from the Google. So you can see here they recommend that it's grayed. Now I put the tick in myself just for visual cue, but you can see that it should be differentiated between normal and visited if you want to. I'm not going to do the rest of them because the same rule kind of applies. So I've in here, I have my option, and then what I do is insert. So you can see here actually while I'm doing that, the normal and the visited now look different. And I go in here and I insert a little icon, and don't do tick because it'll actually show the little creature called a tick. So it's best to look for check mark. I learned that. So you can select different ones. So let's go with that one. That's nice enough there, and you'll see it'll appear in here. Now give it a minute, and it'll actually show you if you add different elements where it sits. So I want to select on this and just drag it up here. And again, I can change the outline and the fill if I want. Let's give it the same color here. So what'll happen here is, you know, depending on the different states, I have normal, hover down, but when they visit it, it'll come in here and then it'll go to disabled. So done editing states. So what really can be frustrating is, especially when you go to a lot of work and, you know, you change them quite heavily, you know, the different states, maybe your hover might have a different icon, it might change shape, might different text might come in or whatnot. It can be really frustrating, you know, having to go in, especially when you have loads of buttons. And let's go back to done there. You'll see here that I have to go in here or I have to go in here. There is a really cool shortcut in Storyline to do this. It's called the Format Painter. It's a bit finicky. It could be just me using it, but that's what it is. So first thing I do is I highlight it, just get the 4 arrows on it there and click Format Painter. So that'll just copy the format. And then click on the box here and now you see option 2 has it. And then it will disappear off it again. So there's option 3. So I need one that has it already. So option 2 has it. And then I can click Format Painter and then click here again. And you'll see that is done. So it's really, really quick way. Don't waste your time, you know, doing all the buttons and then feeling you have to either copy and paste it. So if I duplicate this one here, again, holding Control button and dragging down, you'll see here, it copies all the style there as well. So the Format Painter, great little tool to have when you're doing that. So what will happen here is, I'm just going to add a new slide here. Or should I? So here's one I prepared earlier. Okay, so this is my OER from last year. So just going to zoom in here. So I have in here that the different states are so I deleted off the other one. I just wanted 3 states, hover and visited. So you can see it has a different tick box there just to imply that it's been visited. And then they're free to go around, you know, because learners kind of are curious people and they like to go in and explore. So if you are going to say why you didn't do it, I'd recommend just citing that. Again, I'll try and figure out where it's in loads of studies, but if I can find the exact one. And here's my main menu as well. And that just has 2 states because we don't care about the visited there. They're always going to go back to the main menu. Another recommendation, actually, what I forgot to tell you here is just here, if you select all your buttons and just right click on it. And again, just something I've learned through the years, right click and button set and create button set 1. And that means that they just behave as a button that are together. So for instance, I'll try to think of an example. It's just best practice to do it anyways, but it just makes them behave as if they're all similar buttons that should be, you know, grouped together. And I'm trying to think, there is a specific reason for it. It's like, you know, if you select one and then select another and you're using layers and things like that, I don't want to go into too much of the detail. The button set is just there, so just get into the habit if it's your first time doing it. My recommendation for sure. So let's go back to the one I prepared earlier and I can show you what it'll look like. So here, if I preview this scene, don't want to go through the whole lot. Sorry, it's running slow because I'm doing a recording as well. It doesn't seem to be too happy with that.
Click each button to read the definition. When you are finished, click Main Menu to return back to the main menu.
So you can see here, It has the different states, so it hovers. So if I want to jump here and just learn about different devices. Now this is a lightbox function. So here it says what it is, blah, blah, and then they can go back. So now this tells the learner, yep, I've watched it. So I don't need to go back in there again, and then I can go into the cloud and then go back here and read it, and then web
Click
apps.
each button to read the definition.
There we go.
When you are finished,
So
click main menu to return
Data
back to the
center.
main menu.
and so forth. So now the learner knows that they have it all there, because you want to allow them, like I said, to explore, go back to main menus and kind of navigate around. So it is good practice there. So yeah, that's how you can kind of let the learner know really quickly, you know, that they visited a site without getting too complex into the different types of layers and triggers and stuff like that. Again, using the really quick button feature there, like I said, and you can do this, like I said, the states exist. Insert in, let's go back to my dummy one here, don't mess this one up. So if I insert, you know, different things, and it works really well in characters, the states. If I pop one in there. So let's do Renita. She'll have different states. So go into states here, edit states. So, you know, if you want her to be happy, sad, there's actually some really cool states in here. So that's add a new state, and you'll see all her different. So if I say on hover, add, and then I double click on it and go in here and make her pose in, pick a random one. Hey, let's make her happy that you've hovered on her. Sounds terrible, but there we go. And then if I go insert in, I've done editing here, and then I can do it with a shape, let's say just a box there, and let's say on this one I can do states, edit states here, create a new one. So you can see the shape doesn't only has one, and that's why it's easier to use buttons. It pops it in there for you. And I create a new state. Again, if I want hover, or I can create my own one if I want, based on triggers. So let's say again on the hover, we can change this to insert a different shape, let's say. Change the color, you could have text in there, all those different things. So funny enough, like they're so quick, they're so simple, but a lot of new instructional designers, new people, new to storyline, they just go mad with triggers and actually don't realize that just use your states, because often they're doing something with the mouse or doing something with the device, which is already built in. So let's we're done editing those. Preview this slide. So see here, hey, hover, and again here that changes on hover. So really useful to use the states instead of, you know, going mad with triggers. Play around, like I said, because it's going nowhere. It's basically, it's just saying that you selected it, you ticked it, and you can see everything's working there. So yeah, let me know how you get on. If you have any other questions about states and how to use them, just give me a shout. I'm happy to help.